What's up guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to further our series talking about George Lucas and various concepts that he had for the Star Wars mythos when he was in possession of the Star Wars property, before George Lucas ultimately sold Star Wars to Disney back in 2012. Today we're going to talk about a really controversial choice that George Lucas made, and a choice that was going to be enacted just before the Disney merger, but as a result of the Disney merger was ultimately cancelled. With that said, I'm very glad that what we're about to talk about here did not ultimately come to fruition, although admittedly it would have been pretty interesting to see. First though, we have to explain some backstory. Before George Lucas officially sold Star Wars to Disney, he had several projects in development, most notably a few video games, such as 1313, which would explore the underworld of Coruscant. But George Lucas and LucasArts also had another video game in development, one that would follow Darth Maul, and it was said to be a video game in lieu or similar to Star Wars The Force Unleashed, but itself would have a different tone, being grittier and more adult. After the great success of The Force Unleashed as well as The Force Unleashed 2, it was George Lucas's vision to continue the Star Wars stories through video games, and of course through TV shows that he had planned but never came to fruition as well, one of which was this Darth Maul video game. What made the video game really interesting though is it was actually set after the events of Return of the Jedi, but would still pick up the Darth Maul storyline after the events of Star Wars The Clone Wars, which George Lucas was also working on. Unfortunately though, after Disney made the official deal with George Lucas, all of the current projects from Lucas were cancelled, and although other properties such as Rebels would be created in lieu of Star Wars The Clone Wars, everything Lucas was working on at the time was essentially halted, including this Darth Maul game. Still though, the game remains very interesting, as again, to pull people in, it was actually set after the events of Return of the Jedi, and after the events of the death of the Emperor as well as Darth Vader, and the player could find themselves playing as Darth Maul, which as far as age is concerned in Star Wars, it does actually make sense, as Zabraks can live to be around 180 years old. Apparently the original plan was to, after Order 66 that would occur in Star Wars The Clone Wars, Darth Maul would go into hiding, and it would ultimately set up his appearance in this video game years after Return of the Jedi, where presumably we would learn for around that 20 plus years Darth Maul had in fact been in the hiding from the Sith. The game also somewhat featured the occurrence of new Sith Lords entering the Star Wars universe, and Darth Maul attempting to reclaim the Sith mantle after the fall of Vader and Sidious. And this is sort of what the story would be based around, with Darth Maul also coming into conflict with Mandalorian. What I think makes this property really interesting is not even the people that were set to work on it really knew the full story of the game. All they knew is that according to George Lucas, it was involving Darth Maul as the main protagonist, and it was set after the events of Return of the Jedi, meaning that George Lucas bringing back Darth Maul in Star Wars The Clone Wars had much bigger implications than what we got, as again Darth Maul would ultimately return again in Star Wars Rebels, where he would be killed off by Obi-Wan Kenobi on the planet of Tatooine. But again with George Lucas, the plans for Darth Maul varied drastically, and had much bigger implications on the Star Wars universe. With that said though, I'm not sure it would have worked out flawlessly, as fans were pretty willing to accept that Darth Maul returned in Star Wars The Clone Wars, but I'm not sure if they would have accepted the character's return beyond that, and have it be sort of a double fake out of Darth Maul dying, even though according to George Lucas it was never his intention to kill off Darth Maul in the Clone Wars, and to have it set up this game. Still though, my friends, I would love to hear your personal thoughts on this, and what are your thoughts on this idea that George Lucas had about bringing Darth Maul back post Return of the Jedi Episode 6, and post the death of Darth Vader as well as Darth Sidious. This is by no means a massive reveal in the Star Wars universe, as it never even came close to fruition, but I still think it's interesting and definitely was worth a video. As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave your thoughts on this in the comments down below, and have a great day.